without further ado, the first thing that we need to really introduce you first is the Asana company and Asana software product. So we would like to show you the video of the Asana product. So give you a hint, Asana is the team collaboration software. So it's more on the project management and it's more on the team effectiveness. So next would be our video. So this is the product example of Asana software.
With Asana, your team can take on big projects and get them done. It all starts with a project that you can break down into smaller tasks. Assign tasks and set due dates so everyone's clear on what to do and when to do it. As you start working, loop in other teammates and have conversations that move tasks forward. They'll get updates on the things you're following and can see progress and deadlines anytime. With your team working together in Asana, you can easily move from big idea to great results.
So if you can see from the summary of this product, so the purpose of this product is they want to try to really work on more the collaboration of the team. So with the software that can really enable them to work in the team, have some of the status updated on the goals, on the results and objectives of the team, so they can spend more time on quality working together. So this is the company background. So this is Asana company. So this actually was found by two ex-members of Facebook and also Google. So it's found in Silicon Valley in 2008. And the product of Asana is also called Asana. So it's the team management software. So team collaboration and work management is a key thing. If you see the video previously, they really want the team to get together to be able to focus with the task, work, progress, objectives, and focus on the result. So actually, Asana company was ranked as the number 2 of the top 100 best mid-size. So mid-size includes small and medium type of the workplace. So one of the best mid-sized workplace company to work for is already considered as Asana, and in 2018 they are still on the top 5. As the top 5, there were some of the new entries coming, but still they're going to be able still on the top 5 of the companies. So we're gonna go through the values of the Asana company. So you can see the value. Asana actually align its value on the product itself as well as on the value of their culture, on the way that they manage performance. So these are the 3 big things that Asana believe. Number 1, they use the pyramid of clarity. The vision is that their value is everyone in the organization must have clarity, objectives, goals, results. So they need to know the purpose in their level. They need to know the expected result from their level, and they need to know the personal goals that they need to achieve annually. And they make it into a pyramid. So a pyramid will come from the top level is a mission, come down to strategy, objectives, result, and projects. In the next slide, I will show you the full pyramid of the Asana pyramid of clarity and explain more about this. So the key concept of this one is everyone in the organization must be really clear and clarify on the expected results, on the purpose, on the objectives of their team. Number 2 is Asana would really wants the team to collaborate, so they give a very high authority of delegation. We call it empowerment. So in their organization, they divided into the area responsibility. So area responsibility may consider as to be what we call department in some other company. But the key things of this one is in each area of responsibility, there will be a person which is called directly response individuals. This one is really a champion of the area of responsibility. We call it AOR. This person has authority to make decisions. This person has authority to plan and to work on that areas. And with that, on the third part, the Asana company provide the empowerment delegation as well as the pyramidal clarity comes also with the mentoring. So it's on the learning development as well, the managers. Usually in some of the companies, the managers will be the approver of the area of responsibility. But for Asana, managers are considered as coach. They are not going to approve on some of the actions, which is really designed by the DRI. And definitely, as they have a pyramid of clarity, they also have self-review and peer review. So if you make be familiar with self-review and peer performance review, so this means you review your performance as well as you let your peers to be able to give you the performance data on that. And they also have the frequent one-on-one, and when they conduct the one-on-one means the managers and also the employees have the meeting, there's only 2 persons in the room. They will focus more on only needs and goals. The reason is the tracking and the progress of their tasks are already being done by Asana software. Asana company, they develop team management and collaboration software, and also they use it within their own organization. So on the track of the progress of the objectives of the key result, which is really monitored by the automated software. So they eliminate that from the discussion on one-on-one, and they focus on really the goals. I mean on the goals that they need to go to, whether they need to revise on the goals, what are the needs of the employees, what are really needs of the business. And last but not least, they also conduct this source analysis when the problem occurs. So they have a really systematic way of encountering the problems, whether the organization is challenging with the business problems, some revenue down. So they have a way come up with the flow of the source analysis to work on. So these are really 3 values that really help Asana on to drive their performance of their employees. Because with these of the areas, the result is that they are really growing pretty fast, and they are really considered as one of the best company mid-size to work for. And also, the key thing that really drives them is this one, is Asana Pyramid of Clarity. So things start from the top. The top is the mission of Asana, so this is the mission of Asana, to help humanity to thrive, and leading the teams. So they come up with mission and they develop this strategy, which also comes down to the company-wide objective. So every year, or every 6 months, so team, in each of the area of responsibility, the team will have the meeting to set up the business objectives or to set up the product objectives. For example, business objectives might be about increasing revenue by how many growth or many percent. Or product objectives, whether they want to launch new things or whether they're going to develop a new set of software. Or other internal objectives, which in the end, these are the objectives, they let each employee to have results and projects designed by their own. So they share. Everyone will have to really be involved in this clarity pyramid. So all the employees must know whether what are really their key results and what is exactly the key objectives of their business part or their product parts. And they are knowing what projects they are going to work on. And they don't have to really focus much on tracking because all of their software and products are already done for them. So these are really some of the interesting approach that Asana makes to their organization, and really help them to really drive the performance really significantly. So as this case really ties with the performance management, so we will go through some of the basics about performance management, and our team will really continue on the details on each of the elements. So I'll forward this one to the next person.
So let's get to know more about performance management. Basically, it's a process that ensure employee output and activity that they perform contribute to the success or the achievement of organizational goal. So in total, we have 6 steps in this process. First, it starts from identify what would be our high-level organizational goal, and then these high-level purpose need to be articulated clearly so that all employees in all level are able to understand and execute accordingly. So the second one, since we have the higher level of purpose, then it should be the purpose of at each employee level should also be defined so that they know what are the actions they need to take in order to achieve those goals. So the third step is to provide support and ongoing performance decision. By providing support here means that we should support employee by providing training, coaching, mentoring, or take time to invest in them so that they can achieve those desired behavior or can take action that we are expecting of them. And once they take action, then there should be ongoing performance discussion so that it serves as a checkpoint to make sure that employees are on the right track. So the fourth step is evaluation of performance. This is a shared responsibility between supervisor, manager, and employee. They should set time to evaluate performance on a regular basis, but the interval is to be determined according to the appropriateness of that organization or that situation. The step 5 is to identify improvement need. So after we evaluate the performance of the employee, then we can identify the area for improvement for those employees and then identify what are the support needed for in order to achieve the desired behavior. And lastly, provide consequences for performance result because in performance-based incentive system, employee will be determined on their increase or decrease of their paycheck or promotion opportunity based on their performance result. So there are in general the main purpose of performance management. First,
it's going to be in questions, right? At the end of the case. Question number 1. We will deal with these 3 purposes. Therefore, pay attention closely.
so the first purpose would be strategic purpose. This is mainly to determine whether the output or activity performed by our employee would contribute to achievement of organizational goal or the success of the company. Because the success of the company, right, is mainly linked to the employees' behavior and the output that they make. The second one is administrative purpose. So the information collected through performance management system will be used for day-to-day decision making by managers, such as the increase or decrease in paycheck, incentive, benefit, promotion, or retention period. And the last one is developmental purpose. This is a purpose that we want to use result or information collected through performance management system to identify what are the key improvement or development opportunities for employee, and then we can consider to provide training, invest in their development exposure, like assign or empower them to work on assignment or provide training coaching to develop or cultivate them toward the desired behaviors.
So I'll be talking about 5 criteria or standards that for effective performance management, and I'll be tackling them individually for better grasp. Firstly, fit with strategy, or in other words, we can say strategic congruence. This is basically, as you can see in the picture, the missing puzzle is represented as an employee, and he's trying to fit into the organization. So the organization has to make sure that the behavior of the employee contributes to a good behavior, contributes to the behavior and attitude aligned with the organization goal strategy. The criterion emphasizes that the company should provide training and assistance to the employee so they can contribute to the organization and provide efficiency to the organization. And by looking at this, we can see that the system has to be is very dynamic because it can change accordingly. And so it means that the organization has to make sure that their strategy, the training program they have, can be viable and be utilized for any employee. There's a system known as balanced scorecard that can be used to use this criteria. For example, if a company is focusing on customer service, then the PMS or the performance management system can focus on the customer service. For example, customer service can be like teaching them to be patient, or giving them or being good at communication skills. So in this case, the company has to make sure that if an individual is lacking communication skills, they can train them to fill this gap. Secondly, we have the validity. Validity is the measurements that we actually want to measure, meaning that it is the relevant portion of the performance. So to visualize this, we can see that there are two circles. The green shaded area is the contamination part. The contamination part is the information that is gathered but is irrelevant. And the brown area is the deficiency, which is the information that is relevant but we were not able to gather it. So giving example for contamination is like basically when we try to have the job performance for checking the job performance for a salesperson. If we want to see that they are, we cannot measure them by the number of calls they make to the clients or the customers, because having the many number of calls doesn't mean that they bring sales to the company or increase the customer satisfaction. And the deficiency section is the part where we lack to gather the important information. For example, it can be the true information that we want, but we are not able to achieve that information. For example, in my company, the top management uses like the attendance system to have the annual appraisals. And in that sense, we can say that people who come all the time, it doesn't reflect to the efficiency of working, because even though if the employees are 100%, if one employee is 100%, it doesn't mean that he is efficient all the time. So this is the part where we lack the efficiency. And the middle part is the validity part. And in the reality, we want to make this validity part bigger. So we will try to neglect the irregularities. And the third, we have the reliability. Reliability is the stability in the performance. So there are two types of reliability. First is inter-rater reliability, and the second is test-retest reliability. Inter-rater reliability is basically for example, if two managers are trying to evaluate an individual, then they should come up with the assessment which is similar or same. So if it's not similar, then it's not reliable. The second one is test-reset reliability. This one actually measures the individual who's being evaluated to see that whether over a period of time he is consistent or not over its measurements. And fourthly is the acceptability. Acceptability is the measure to see if the outcome is valid, the performance measurement is valid or useful, or is adequate for anyone, including the person who is being evaluated or the one who, as a manager. So it should be acceptable by both sides. To give you an example of acceptability is when, for example, if a manager gives a performance form, evaluation form, which is 2 pages, and the manager thinks that it is enough for him to judge the employee, but on the side of employee, he thinks that these 2 pages are not enough for him to show his full potential. So it lacks the acceptability from the side of the employer. So in this case, we can say that it is not acceptable. So it means that we have to make sure that it is accepted by both sides. And lastly is the specific feedback. Specific feedback means that for any organization, feedback is really important because it tells the position of the person who is receiving the feedback, that is he or she above or below par. So in this case, we HR try to tell them and expect them to show that, expect them and how they can meet those expectations. So we would like to show them that where they are currently and how can they improve and go along with the organization goals. Because at the end of the day, the organization want their employee to be on the same boat and most importantly, be on this rowing in the same direction. Next.
So we have already gone through the purpose of the performance management and as well as the areas that we have to look for if we want to have the effective performance management system. Now we are going to go through 4 big methods of the way that we want to measure the performance of the employee. So there are really 4 big types to go for. Number 1 is making comparison. So the name has already told that. So the basis is you compare a person and compare one person to another person. So I'll go through very slowly on this one. So number 1 is the simple rating. So simple rating means if you got a pool of person in the company, so you just pick the best and then you pick the worst. So this is the way to make it simple. You have a pool, you pick the best and then you may pick the worst. And we have another way we call it alternation ranking. So alternation ranking means you pick the best first and then you come down to worst and then you go for the second best and then you go down to the second worst. So by that end, you are gonna have a rank of the people who have the person who had the best performance rate and then the worst performance rate. So this is called simple rating. The second one, we call it force distribution method. So this one, while we have to force, it means, so we assign a percentage to a set of categories of performance. Set category means, for example, you may have excellent, good, medium, moderate, or it need to improve, or somewhere else may call exceptional, not acceptable. And you assign percentage. You think like in one company, how many percent should be under the performance rate of exceptional, or how many percent should be really, how many percent should be really on the last percentile or on the worst, need to be improved in. So for example, so you have a curve like this one, the distribution curves, right? So if this one is the best performance, exceptional, so you might decide whether this one going to be 5% and this one going to be at the 60% of the total organization. The one that the company really, which really start this method is GE, General Electric. They pulled it for many years ago, and in the past of the decades, many of the companies follow GE on doing this because this offers some of the good points on that, which I want to show you in the later slides. The last one is the pair comparison. So this one, you make the comparison visually throughout the whole organization. So the basic thing you do is, for example, you have employee A, B, C, D, E. The thing you need to do is, when you consider about employee A, you need to compare A to B, compare A to C, compare A to D, and compare A to E. You make sure that everyone are really compared to one another. For example, B, right? You need to compare B to every other person. And when you compare, so you can get whether which, in this comparison, which one is the winner, which one is the better performer. So this is called pair comparison. So all of these are really some of the ways that we can do by making comparison to really measure the performance. And making comparison, so if you have to have a look at this, so we go back to the criteria of the effectiveness of our performance management system. These are really the things that we need to consider. Whether making comparison as a very good or useful methods to do. So the pro of using this one, I'll make it easy first. The pro of this one is that number one, it avoids center of scale favoritism. Scale favoritism means if you really put everyone in just the same group of the performance. For example, if you are really a new manager, you don't want to scare your new subordinate, so you try to make everyone love you by scoring equal. So if you use this method, it is very hard to do that. Or it's erase the tendency. So if some of the managers are pretty strict, so it is not possible for anyone to get exceptional. So most of them tend to be need improvement. For example, this one will eliminate that fact. And also sometimes making comparison is drive competitiveness. For example, my client that I'm working as a consultant, so they have really a comparison ways to drive the result of the business result. Because some of the urge of the comparison culture really drives on the employees' stability in the job. For those who really have, in the lower rank, they will feel really not safe about their job, and they will do it more. The concept using this one is number one on the fairness, which is also could be really the questions on validity. The fairness is whether when you select this person to be the best among your team and the worst among your team. Sometimes it is not best or the worst, they're not really defined whether this person has really contribute as good to the company or not. Sometimes it just maybe you select it without some of the criteria, or sometimes you just select it without really rational behind. And also sometimes this is really really happen with the force distribution on the demoting moral, because you force people to be in each of the categories. And when GE and when Ford really introduced this, couple of years later, they faced some of the lawsuit by their employees. Some of the employees who are pretty ranked in the not acceptable, because they are not really different in terms of how they contributed, and the result not that much different from those who are in the moderate, but as somebody has to be there, so it's a fourth one. So these group of employees are pretty sensitive on this, and even some of the companies, not acceptable means they have to let go some, right? So it's become some of the legal concern on that as well. And also the organization goals on when you make a comparisons, you can really try to link it with the strategy, but you have to really spend some time before you pick person. You might have to consider person quite a lot before you pick, if you really want to fit this strategy. So mostly comparison doesn't really link that much to the organization goals. So when to use it, mostly if the companies are going to use this one, they will use with the pay decision or whether they have to lay off somebody. Like they have no choice, but they have to go for some reduction in the size. They might consider of using this metrics sometimes. So the first one is making comparison. The second one is rating individual. So this one you are not going to compare, but you are going to specifically focus on person. So there are two aspects of rating individuals. Number one is on the attributes. So it's characteristic and traits. So you focus on their character. And then there are two possible ways if you want to focus on the attributes. Number one is called graphical rating, and number two is called mixed standard scale. So I'll show you just the example to make it easy. This is called graphical rating. So you have here as the characteristic or traits, and you set up the scale, and then what the manager needs to do is you just circle toss the one on this dimension, whether this employee really are in which of the rating. This one is really common and really easy to use to set, because it's really easy. You come up with any of the traits, and then you define the rating scales. Now, as this one will really have some of the room of something not clear, not clarity, is that what exactly you mean by the attribute of knowledge. Sometimes if you have a look at this, it may not be that clear, right? But what does it really mean by scoring this person adequate in knowledge? So with this, they are trying to come up with The second one that we can do is mixed standard scale, is to try to really solve that unclarity event. So we'll define some of the very proper more explanation on this, and whether you see that there are 3 threads being accessed, and then you have the explanation and words where you would really scope on that, and then at the end you sum it up by being at the score. So the key difference is this one, you really have more on the explanation on the really threads that you access them. So threads means, characteristics mean it's not behavior, so it's threads, it's different. But the second one that we can do is to go for the rating on the behaviors. So now we focus on the what exactly action the employees take. So there are really 4 popular ways they use to rate the individuals. The simple, the easiest one would be critical incident. So the critical incident means you observe and you record some of the major incidents that employee made. For example, these employees come up with the new promotion and that the revenue of the company really drive up by 20%, for example. Or something ineffective, like this person really not careful in the production and create a lot of waste and scraps, which really company lose $10, $1 million, for example. So that's the way that you gather the information. Now, without